Man is charged with attempted murder after allegedly stabbing a stranger in Mississauga.
This does appear to be an unprovoked attack in that the suspect and the victim are not known to one another.
The victim suffering serious injuries after being attacked while walking on a sidewalk. Police saying the suspect was out on bail for previous assault charges at the time of the stabbing. Plus,
our lineups you will see outside when we open, it's 2 blocks down sometimes, you know.
Food bank use is expected to go up even more this year, according to a new report. The biggest contributing factors when it comes to food insecurity. And
we waited so long for a facility like this.
We'll take you inside the new 8-story, $500 million state-of-the-art healthcare facility at Toronto's Michael Garron Hospital. Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. A Mississauga man is recovering in hospital tonight after being stabbed by a stranger yesterday. Now, the suspect, a 34-year-old man, has since been charged with attempted murder in what police say was an unprovoked attack. And as Greg Ross reports, police say this isn't the first time the accused has been charged with a violent incident like this.
It's kind of scary. It could happen to you, right?
Residents who live near Hurontario and John Street in Mississauga were on edge this morning after learning a 19-year-old man was stabbed while walking on this sidewalk yesterday.
I really take that route every day, like at 8:30 at night. So I'm really scared now.
Police say it happened under this railway overpass on Hurontario Street. It appears the victim was caught off guard.
The information that I have is that the victim was approached from behind by the suspect.
Police don't believe the victim knew his attacker or had any communication with him before the altercation. It didn't take long for police to determine who they believe is responsible.
Detectives have identified the suspect as 34-year-old David Ditlow with a last known address of Toronto.
Ditlow was arrested this morning and is now facing a charge of attempted murder as well as 3 charges of failing to comply with a release order. In addition to the charges stemming from the attack here yesterday, police say Ditlow has a number of previous charges against him that are still pending. In fact, Ditlow had been released on bail multiple times for cases both here in Peel and in Toronto. Ditlow's previous charges include assault, assault with a weapon, and assault causing bodily harm. In one of those cases, police say Ditlow is accused of stabbing another person. It raises the question, why was Ditlow granted bail?
We're presumed innocent of anything we're charged with, and the right to reasonable bail is a constitutional protection.
This criminal defense lawyer says it's not surprising that Ditlow had been released on bail, but he says with new, more serious charges, it's going to be much more difficult this time around.
When someone is accused of violating their bail or charged with a new offense while out on bail, the presumption changes, and it's now the onus is placed on the accused person to demonstrate why they should this time now be released.
Police say the 19-year-old victim in this case remains in hospital in serious but stable condition. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
Toronto police are asking for the public's help tonight in tracking down anyone who was assaulted by a group of teenage girls on the TTC last month. Police say on December 17th, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 12 a.m., a group of 8 to 10 teen girls randomly assaulted several people on the transit system. Investigators say the attacks occurred at St. Patrick, Queen's Park, Osgood, St. Andrew, and Union stations. They are asking anyone who was a victim to contact investigators. The assaults happened in the same general area and close to the same time as the death of 59-year-old Ken Lee. Lee was a homeless man who was stabbed and killed near Union Station in an alleged swarming attack by 8 teenage girls. However, Toronto police telling CBC Toronto they can't confirm any link between the TTC assaults and Lee's death. One person was killed and another injured on the 401 near Dixie Road in Mississauga early this morning.
Around 5 o'clock this morning, witnesses reported 2 people outside of a vehicle in the express lanes. A passenger vehicle struck one of those pedestrians, causing that pedestrian to come to rest in one of the live lanes, at which point we believe it was struck by another transport truck that did stop but did subsequently leave the scene.
Police say a man and woman were standing outside a car that was pulled over and that it was the man who was struck by two vehicles. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police closed all westbound express lanes just past Renforth Drive for the investigation. They're asking anyone who witnessed what happened or who may have dash cam video to contact the OPP. Some planes are back in the sky across the U.S. after being grounded for hours due to a computer system failure at the Federal Aviation Administration. And more than 1,100 U.S. flights were canceled after the system went down. Flights are slowly resuming, but almost 8,000 have been delayed. The cause of the outage is being investigated, but the White House says there's no evidence of a cyber attack. Canadian travelers heading south of the border are being advised to check flight times in advance. But the overall impact on Canadian airports hasn't been as severe. Now, meantime, Canada's aviation system suffered an outage this afternoon. No flight disruptions were reported as a result, and operations have since been restored. Food insecurity is expected to get even worse this year, with food banks across the country, many already stretched thin, bracing for an increase in demand. Now, all this according to a new report from Second Harvest. Lisa Shing has more on the main factors contributing to the growing need.
The work doesn't stop after this food bank closes.
So we are unloading crackers and chips for clients that just came in from...
As volunteers, many of them clients themselves, prepare for another day of long lineups.
It's very hard to find a job, but without job, food bank is very good option for needy peoples.
They're seeing triple the number of people compared with 3 years ago.
Are you seeing a lot of new faces?
A lot of new faces, yes. Of all ethnicities, everything, yes. Our lineups you will see outside when we open, it's 2 blocks down sometimes, you know.
The problem is nationwide. Food rescue charity Second Harvest collected data from 1,300 organizations. It found demand for food banks will grow by 60% this year. That's on top of a 134% increase last year.
Those are huge numbers. A lot of people that are accessing food supports have jobs. These are families that just can't make it, and they could be 2-parent families, and they have jobs.
A number of factors are playing into this increase in need. The end of COVID supports, food inflation, and the fact wages can't keep up all play a role.
Housing costs are exceptional. Putting your child in daycare, unaffordable. There are so many pressures on families right now and individuals on how do you best spend your money. And the truth is, food is really your only negotiating product.
Researchers say food banks offer short-term emergency help, not a long-term fix.
The more effective solution would be a guaranteed livable basic income that puts an income floor under everybody, something that's tied to cost of living in different areas, which we have the data, we can do that.
A costly solution perhaps, but one advocates say would ease the burden on grassroots organizations. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Meteorologist Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first check on the forecast. And Colette, we saw a little bit of snow, some flurries today, but the main system is still to come.
Yeah, we really will see the heart of this system passing through the GTA later in the day tomorrow and overnight into Friday morning. It doesn't mean we won't have precipitation before that. We will, and then it's a question of what form will it be coming in because of the temperature story. The highs from today, I mean, boy, a tale of two cities. When Windsor's high was 6 degrees and Ottawa, look at the reading there, was at -8. We've actually been seeing those temperatures coming up as we're getting closer to midnight, and they'll continue to rise a bit as we go towards the morning hours. But the important thing to note is how close they're going to be to the freezing mark. And for areas to the north of the GTA, so think Collingwood, Parry Sound, but Barrie and Midland, Orillia, all these areas, all the way back towards Waterloo even, the chance of you getting into this freezing drizzle through the overnight hours. So a special weather statement because of that. And then the special weather statement you see hugging the shoreline of Lake Ontario and then all the way around the Niagara and back along the shoreline of Lake Erie. That has more to do with a heads up about the heavy rain that we'll be seeing later tomorrow, carrying on and eventually turning over to some snowfall. So much happening as this system moves through. I'll walk you through some of that freezing drizzle kind of mixing in through the overnight hours tonight. Even possible we could get the odd bit of freezing drizzle in the city, but because of the temperature, likely more so to be some rain. Carry that on and move it forward. We'll get into a break in precipitation, still some wet roadways for tomorrow morning's commute, but that's lighter in nature. Then into the afternoon, this is the heart of it, or the heavier rain, that's going to move through and carry on, and we're looking at 20 to 40 millimeters of rainfall pushing through the city before it turns into that snow. We're going to take a deeper look at the totals coming up a little later in the show, but for tonight, looking at that temperature around freezing and up to 4 for tomorrow afternoon.
Thanks so much, Colette. Premier Doug Ford today denying Bill 124 had a negative effect on retaining nurses in the province. Now, that's despite a document from his own government obtained by CBC Toronto that says the bill, which limits wages for public sector employees, is a challenge to keeping staff. Lorenda Redekop takes us through the latest.
The Premier toured a pharmacy in Etobicoke, re-announcing a recent change, allowing pharmacists to prescribe for some minor conditions. He was repeatedly asked about Bill 124.
If it had anything negative, that must be not accurate. Because
the Premier denied the bill is a problem. However, in the Health Ministry's transition binder for the incoming minister, that bill is listed as one challenge to retaining nurses. Ford then talked about a record number of new nurses being hired and repeatedly said the bill isn't an issue anymore.
Bill 124 is gone. Bill 124 is lapsed, so Bill 124 is lapsed.
However, for some workers, the 3-year bill is still in place. Contracts for hospital nurses expire at the end of March.
I always have to be a prudent fiscal manager with the taxpayers' money. We just can't be out there spending willy-nilly, and as people are working their backs off, they're taxed to the brink right now. But it is lapsed, and the nurses, I want to thank them. They deserve every penny they get.
A court has ruled Bill 124 unconstitutional. However, the province is appealing to keep it in place. On another healthcare topic, wanting more money from the federal government, Ford says he could live with strings being attached to that extra money.
Yes, everyone has to be accountable.
Increased money for health is something all the provinces are calling for. Ford sounded positive about an agreement.
As long as it's transparent and people can see it and the feds can see it in the province, we're going to get there.
The City of Toronto is looking to Ford for more money, with a $1.4 billion hole due to pandemic spending.
So we're going to work with Mayor Tory. We always come up with a solution together.
Just a few of the issues the Premier will be facing this year. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
East York's Michael Garron Hospital debuted its new state-of-the-art facility today. The Thompson Care Centre will provide acute and mental health care in an 8-story building with hundreds of new beds. Ali Chiasson takes a tour.
Going to the hospital can be scary, but what if it was bright, brand new, and designed with patients in mind?
Well, what's important is to involve patients, families, and our staff in the design so that we could get it right. You only get a chance to do this maybe every 40, 50 years. It's exciting to be able to work in the most up-to-date hospital in Ontario.
This is Michael Garron Hospital's new building, the Ken and Marilyn Thompson Patient Care Centre. 550,000 square feet, 215 inpatient beds with private washrooms, and 2 floors of outpatient clinics.
It's been obviously a challenging time in healthcare over the last number of months, even the last couple of years, and this has been a beacon of light for our staff. They're really looking forward to the transition to the new Ken and Marilyn Thompson Patient Care Centre, to work in such an environment and to provide care in such an environment, because I think our patients will really appreciate this.
4 generations of my family have received cares from Michael Garron Hospitals over the last 20 plus years.
To see it expand and innovate,
it does give us hope and the light end of the tunnel.
When Toronto was struggling during the pandemic, Michael Garron Hospital staff held campaigns, went door to door, getting vaccines to people in need, playing a huge role in protecting the communities they serve. This is just the latest way they're doing that. The Thompson Care Center will also be a mental health hub with capabilities to care for people in different levels of crisis.
The old building, our old facility, don't have any of the new features we have here. For example, here we have single rooms with private showers, group therapy room, we have places for one-on-one counseling, for interviews, and we have very big private bedrooms with huge windows with a lot of sunshine.
Like the rest of the building, it's designed for optimal hope for healthy patients and community.
We're very proud of what we've created here.
This could be a role model.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. It's an Addams Family spin-off that has streaming audiences flocking to their TV screens. The Netflix show Wednesday was released last fall and quickly became a hit. And you might not know this, it has a Toronto connection. Patrick Swadden shows us how a local visual effects company brought one of its weirdest and most iconic characters to life.
Hello, Thing.
It's one of Netflix's most watched programs ever. Wednesday took streaming audiences by storm in the fall.
The way I see it, you have two options.
And features the iconic character Thing, a sentient disembodied hand that watches over Wednesday at Nevermore Academy. And wouldn't you know it, when Thing isn't being performed on set by actor Victor Dorobantu, he's brought to life here in Toronto by local visual effects company Mars. 4 years ago, they were operating out of a basement on Queen Street. Now they're producing VFX for the world's most watched shows.
For us, that's the mecca, right? As a company that's focused on TV VFX, getting attached to Tim Burton's first ever TV series was really important.
Mars did the scenes that were either impossible or impractical for Victor. They say the challenge was matching Victor's incredible performance without the audience being any the wiser.
So when Thing drops out from under the car, when he's swimming underwater, when he attaches himself to the bumper, when he's being held up by Wednesday, when he's being thrown into the duffel bag.
CG supervisor James Higuchi saying it was a feather in their cap when audiences praised Victor's performance for a scene actually created by Mars.
Nobody questioned it, right? And there are several sequences that cut back to back, like flipping between CG live action to CG live action.
Higuchi saying they worked hard to match Victor's on-set performances.
Being able to produce that high level and not get called out by the internet is obviously something that every VFX artist wants to achieve, right?
And so what does the future hold for this scrappy effects company? Artificial intelligence in VFX, says Panousis.
It's been 3 years in the making. It's first of its kind in the history of VFX.
Panousis says they're rolling out new products that will help automate visual effects. It's all part of an effort to combat a shortage of people in the industry, resulting from the massive demand for streaming TV shows the pandemic created.
Netflix, HBO, Disney, Amazon, they all went, we need more content now. Like, I mean, we've been in this industry for about 15 years. I've never seen anything like this.
And Mars looking to cash in on that action.
So there's serious money in the industry. Mars's goal from the beginning was to tap that market.
Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
And you are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, cloudy with a few flurries earlier this evening. Currently, it is 2 degrees in the city, but feeling more like -4. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, things will be intensifying the next couple of days. Heavy rains and some snow on the way.
Yeah, so many different things happening and just in a pretty small overall geographic area in terms of what type of precipitation we're getting into. I do want to give you a heads up that winter storm watch into eastern Ontario where snowfall amounts could be heavier, so some bad roadways there and over across the border into Quebec. We're talking about snowfall warnings and winter storm warnings, not just watches. And then earlier in this show, I was showing you the special weather statement because of some of the freezing drizzle to the north of the city and the heavier rains we'll be seeing, especially tomorrow afternoon and evening for the GTA, starting a little bit earlier, though, back into southwestern Ontario. You'll find it intensifying tomorrow towards the afternoon hours. So there are some areas where we can get into that freezing drizzle tonight and some poor roadways even into early tomorrow morning because that temperature hovering right around freezing. Then it's a little bit of some light showery activity into the city tomorrow. That's the morning commute. That's not a big deal. Yeah, some wet roadways, that can slow things down a bit. Watch as I push this forward. We get that break, and then here comes the real rainfall with this system, and that's where we get into the more significant amounts. And then see that cold air filtering in. I know there have been many searching for snow. When are we going to see some more significant snow, get some of those hills open, some of the runs? So many have been closed, or it's been, the man-made snow. Well, we've got some certainly coming through. Some of the heaviest likely kind of stretching from Barrie into eastern Ontario, but even into the higher elevations northwest of the city, likely you'll pick up some there too. So it changes over to wet snow overnight Thursday into Friday for the GTA, and then clearing out, tapers off to flurries, and then clearing out later in the day Friday. That risk of some ice accretion overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. The rainfall amounts, as I'm saying, 20 to 40 millimeters, possible along the shores of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie, and then some significant snowfall likely to be coming through as well. So we've got it all for you coming your way, and that's really through tonight, tomorrow, into Friday. Kelda?
Thanks so much. In another positive development, NFL player Damar Hamlin has been released from hospital. The Buffalo Bills safety was discharged today in Buffalo, 9 days after suffering cardiac arrest during a game in Cincinnati. Hamlin was transferred to a Buffalo hospital just 2 days ago after spending a week in a Cincinnati medical center. His medical team says he went through a series of tests and evaluations, and it was determined he could be safely discharged. Hamlin will continue his recovery at home. And finally, tonight, kids at one Scarborough hospital got a special visit today from the Toronto Raptors.
Just here for the kids, and hopefully put a little light and put some smiles on their faces. I know a lot of these kids are big Raptors fans, so for them to be able to see us and meet us and talk to us and just spend a couple minutes together is it's a great cause, and just happy to be here.
It's amazing. They need to come up with a new word to describe this moment I'm having. It's awesome.
Players spent time with patients in the pediatrics department at Centenary Hospital, which is part of the Scarborough Health Network. The Raps also made a separate private visit to Youth Without Shelter in Etobicoke. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.